somebody mentioned in one of the comments that they weren't the biggest fan of these arrows up here on my polybar. I mean, that's fine. They actually later deleted the comment, which seems to suggest to me that they realized how stupid of an idea that was. Obviously, these are the most beautiful thing anyone has ever seen in the world, so I can't imagine why they would ever suggest I get rid of them, but I can modify them a bit just to sort of make things easier. Sort of, this is an olive branch in the right direction, I think. Everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. I'm recording this on Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day, and I thought to celebrate that, we would talk about Suckless apps. I don't really know why. Those two don't have anything to do with each other, but that's where we are here. So let's go ahead and hop over to the old Suckless website here. Hey, check it out. I fixed the camera. It adjusts when I go to one of these crazy bright websites. We still will maybe try to black it out a bit here, though. Yeah, there we go. So this is Suckless website, and the thing is, these guys develop really, really interesting tools. They're the way that I would describe the tools that the Suckless people make is they're so lightweight and simple that they can't help but be elegant in a lot of cases. And my main experience with the Suckless apps, and I think probably the same is true for most Linux users, is in the smaller apps that they have, stuff like dmenu, Slock, which is a really minimal and lightweight screen locker, stuff like that. And they've got some bigger apps like DWM and ST that are really, really phenomenal. The thing is, the whole time that I have been using any of these Suckless apps, I've just been installing them from the old AUR. So if you're not familiar with the way that works, you can just do sudo pacman-s and install dmenu. And then from there, that's all you really have to do. It's installed, you can use it. If you run dmenu_run, it will run dmenu, and you can begin to search for apps. And if you really want to, you can even create a little script for dmenu that'll basically just add a whole bunch of options. You can sort of get a better look at the way those work. So if you open up the man page for dmenu, there's just a ton of little flags and things that you can do to customize the way that dmenu works, installing it straight from pacman or apt-get or whatever package manager you're a fan of. And you can get pretty far in terms of customization there. But the thing is, dmenu isn't really built to be installed or manipulated in this way. The thing about the Suckless apps is they're sort of odd in the way that they're distributed. And it sort of perplexes me as to exactly why. I mean, I would argue one of the things about Linux that's sort of universally loved is the package management system. You download an app, one line of code or a couple of clicks in a if you're using a graphical package manager installer, and like every OS has been sort of trying to get to that ever since Linux had it, and Linux has basically had it since the start. So like iOS and Android have found a bit more success with that. macOS to an extent has it with the Mac Store, and so does Windows. And there's user-driven stuff like Homebrew and Chocolatey, and now Windows has Winget, which should hopefully get a lot closer to that, but it's sort of a universally loved feature. Suckless says, no, screw all that. We want you to download our apps from us, either through a git clone or downloading a zip file, and then basically to make any changes, you're meant to recompile the app yourself. Now, this isn't a big deal. If you're using something really tiny like dmenu or Slock, you can download it from pacman. There's probably some customization options that you can do with just some flags running the app as you normally would. But especially with some of their bigger tools like ST and DWM, when they come to you, the vanilla sort of default version are in a sort of crippled state. I don't want to say unusable, because like ST is perfectly usable out of the box. So is DWM, because it's just, there's features that would sort of be considered standard that you have to manually add to these apps. So there's a lot of explaining we could do. Probably the best thing to do is just go ahead and talk about how to get these apps working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the Suckless website, and if you come over to tools, some of the bigger apps are just sort of listed here on the homepage, DWM, ST, that kind of stuff, but some of the smaller ones like dmenu and Slock, you have to come over to the tools section of their site and apparently scale up again, because it would be too difficult for Firefox to just remember where I set the scale. And then you can click on dmenu, and you can see here's a download right here. You can download dmenu. That's just a zip file. But what I've been doing is I just git clone the app here. So there's a link right here to do it. Git clone git.suckless.org/dmenu. And then you need to find a place to sort of store these apps. What I've done is, if I take a look at my home directory, I basically just created a .folder, a .suckless folder. And then what you want to do is just go into that folder. I'm going to go into my downloads here, for example, and you're just going to literally run that git clone command on whatever app you're using. And then what you're going to do is just cd into that D menu folder we just created. And if you want to go ahead and just build the app, you just need to do sudo make install. And then if we go ahead and run dmenu_run, you can see it pops up right there. And if I use my little keyboard shortcut, perfect. It's installed just like a normal app would be. Now let's talk about customization. Despite what some people will tell you, the Suckless apps do have config files. They're right here. If we take a look, there are basically two you need to worry about. There's one called config.def.h and there's one called config.h. Config.h is generated when we build the app, and it's based on config.def.h. When you actually build the app, you have to remove this config file before you can build it. So if I want to rebuild really quickly, I have to remove config.h. and then I can build the app again. But if I want to make any modifications, I'm going to have to remove that in order to do it. So what I recommend doing is I'm just going to type in remove -f config.h, and then I'm going to go ahead and type in sudo make install. And what I want to do is I'm going to copy that, open up another terminal real quick here, and I'm going to go into my config for Zeesh. And I just want to make an alias to sort of make that a little bit easier. So we're going to alias, we'll make the alias like suck, and then we'll just copy that in. Remove -f config.h and then sudo make install. And then if we go ahead and quit and just like reload Zeesh or something, every time we run suck, it's going to remove that config.h and build the app for us. That, I think, is a helpful thing to do, because every time you make any modifications to these apps, whether it's installing patches, editing something in the config, you have to remove that config and then rebuild the app in order for those changes to take effect. Now let's go ahead and take a look at that config.def.h file. And you'll see in here, this sort of resembles a fairly standard looking config file. There's options for editing all sorts of different things, and we can just sort of begin to edit. So the first thing you'll see is we have an option to edit fonts. So let's do that. Let's add the font Product Sans. Another thing you might notice here is we have some colors that are set here by default. So foreground and background colors. If we bring up the app, we can sort of see how those work, and we can start to change them. There's a few other things we could do. This is how we could force the menu to use a vertical list while we're searching. A couple of other things here. I don't want to spend too much time getting into this because there's a lot more that we can do to edit dmenu. This is really just the start. This is what vanilla dmenu looks like. And we're sort of just customizing it to get back to the point where we were when we left off. So let's go ahead and save those changes, and then let's go ahead and run suck. And if we take a look now, perfect. New colors, the font size looks much more appropriate. We've changed the font face, and I think we are all good. But ladies and gentlemen, this is just the start of how we can customize these apps, because one of the really, really great things about all of these Suckless apps is basically all of them that I know of have patches. This is a consequence of the fact that these apps are so lightweight. Because they're so lightweight, the developers know that there's going to be some features missing. I think actually when they're developing these apps, they have a hard code limit. Like, they're only allowed for each app to be so large in terms of like actual lines of code. Like, hey, this app's more than 1,000 lines of code, get the fuck out of here. Like, it's got to be very small in order for them to publish this. So in order to get around that, what they have basically is a system where people can basically add features to the software through patches. So you download this little bit of code, you add it to your config, and then you rebuild the app, and now you've got an additional feature. And there's a lot of these here. So I know in the case of dmenu, one that a lot of people like to add is this one here, line height, which will allow you to customize the actual height of your dmenu up here so that it'll sort of match whatever bar you're using. You can see the dmenu is a little bit over half the height of my polybar up here, and if I wanted to customize that, I could do that with this patch. I'm not interested in that because I have a different patch in mind. This one here, the center patch. What this should theoretically allow us to do is just sort of center dmenu dead in the center of the screen and shrink it quite a bit into a more compact thing that sort of dynamically changes, I think. And you can see it'll give you a brief description of the patch, and a lot of times if there's more than one version of the patch, it will tell you what the differences are. Basically, here you can see the difference between these two. Only one of them has a version number. You can see with the dmenu-20 2001 111 whatever else, it's going to let us use the -C flag to center dmenu. So my guess would be that the original one just sort of centers it by default, and then this other one, we have to use the -C flag to center it. Okay, so I'm going to download the original one. I don't really want to use any flags or anything on it. That's kind of of the whole idea here. So I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to click Save Link As in Firefox. And then I just want to navigate to that D menu folder that I created. So I'm going to go over to my good old home directory, and I need to see hidden files here. There we go. So I'm going to go into my Suckless folder, there it is, into the D menu folder, and I'm going to go ahead and save. Perfect. We downloaded with git and not a tarball file, so what we need to do is we need to do git apply, and then we're going to give the path to the patch. So in this case it's dmenu-center. In theory, maybe it should be there. We should go into the config. That didn't give us an error, so I mean, generally that means a good thing. If we take a look here and search for center, nothing happens. Maybe we should actually just go ahead and try to build this first and see if it did anything. Oh, it did. It put it in the center. Wow, so that's it. The git apply thing worked fine. For whatever reason, I didn't think it did. It didn't actually change the config.f.h file at all, as far as I can tell, which I was sort of expecting it to, but I guess it really doesn't need to. There's no customization for it. One thing I do want to do here is, since we have it in the center now, I'll have it display some lines, which, if I'm reading this correctly, we just need to add a number right here, static unsigned integer lines. So we're going to say maybe display 5 sort of rows of characters, and then we'll remove and make again. And hey, there we go. So Firefox, let's see, Spotify, Steam, we could be launching apps for days now. And that's pretty cool. We could try to apply some more patches here if there's any else that look interesting. You know what, maybe let's just move on to a different app here, because I mean, there's really not much I want to do with dmenu. One of the things that I really, really love about dmenu, and I think a lot of people like about dmenu, is it's an incredibly simple app. So let's not overcomplicate it too much. We are actually adding to the source code every time we do one of these patches, so it is getting more bloated every time we make a change. This is a Heineken, by the way. I'm not the biggest fan of beer, generally speaking, but Guinness and Heineken, all good in my book. Anyways, let's take a look at something else here. How about Slock? Slock is a really cool screen locker. What does a screen locker do? Well, it locks your damn screen. What else would it do? Let's go ahead and just git clone the thing here. We got the link here. It's git.suckless.org/slock. So we can, I don't know why I keep going to the first monitor there. Clear the screen, back out, go into our Suckless folder, and we're just going to git clone Slock. I have actually used this a bit. I recently redid my system here, so I haven't installed it yet, but if I go into my config for awesome, I do actually have a keyboard shortcut to launch Slock. So let's cd into the Slock folder, and to get started, we're just going to do, we can actually run suck because there's nothing to remove, and it should just build it. And then if I do Command R, we're getting an error and I don't know why. Group entry not found. Let's just go into the config.def.h file and see, maybe it requires some sort of, no body, no group. Oh, interesting. Mac and Mac or wheel? What group does it want? If it wants the group that my user's in, that group is also, well, okay, hang on, let's go back over to this page here. Configuration, sock is configured by per default, the screen will turn red on the keyboard press, and okay, let me just Google real quick because I don't want to put in the wrong thing. Slock group. I don't know what that means. Maybe, hopefully someone will know where to, fuck you. Slock group. Oh, okay. All right. So basically, you just want to put in your username twice, because if you're on Linux, like basically always your username and your group are going to be the same. So it's user Mac, and then the name of my group for my user is also Mac. As in theory, it should be for basically everyone. We also have the option to edit some colors here, so why not grove box it up a little bit? So go ahead and exit that, and let's remove our config and rebuild again. So I'll type in suck. And then in theory, now if we go ahead and do Command R, our screen is blacked out. You can't see anything. Hang on, you're gonna see something in a sec. Whoa, now we're blue. I typed in the wrong password. Now we're red. It's like we're watching Tenet. All right, so let's me type in my password here, and we're back in. Cool, so that was fun. I can trigger it with a keyboard shortcut when I walk away from my computer, or I can put it on some sort of timer so it automatically triggers itself after a certain amount of time, and it's super, super lightweight and simple and easy to get going. So let's take a look at a few of the patches and see if there's anything we want to do here. I don't really know what else you could add. Patch keeps the screen unlocked but keeps the input locked, so the screen is not affected by Slock. So it'll still show what's on your screen. That could be cool, unless you've got something sort of sensitive on your screen. I wouldn't generally recommend keeping sensitive things open while walking away from X device, but if you're there. Blur pixelated screen, that's interesting. What's that? Sets the lock screen picture to a blurred or pixelated screenshot. Let's go ahead and download that. That sounds nice. Save link as, and we're gonna save it into our slot folder the same way that we did with dmenu. Hop back over here and let's do git apply, and we're going to slot-blur 10 lines, add a white space error. So did it work or not? Let's go into the config.def.h blur. Oh, cool. Okay, so it looks like it worked, and it's asking for a blur radius or a pixel size. Let's do a blur radius of about 15. Let's go crazy. Give me 35. Something crazy, something wild. Exit that, rebuild, lock our screen. Did it work? It did work. Whoa, so that took a second, but it did work. And we're back in. Does it give us any notification at all if we type the password wrong? It does not. So that is a potential downside. It'd be nice to get some sort of notification, but that is cool. I don't know. I think I'm going to mess around with this a little bit more, because the main thing here, the third act plot twist, I want to download ST, the terminal. Let's go ahead and not dawdle any further. Let's go over to the ST page, and we're going to scale up the fucking web page again, because Firefox is just trying to fuck with me here. I'm going to git clone git.suckless.org/st. Also got a whiskey sour here. It's made with Woodford Reserve. If you're a bourbon guy, this is like perfect. Cocktails, bourbon, milkshakes. It holds its flavor better than any whiskey I've ever found when put into mixers or cocktails or flavoring things. It really holds on to the whiskey flavor. So let's CD into the old ST app here. And let's go ahead and take a look at the config, or I guess let's actually just build it first so we can sort of get a A to B comparison. So let's go ahead and run suck, build from source. Let's go ahead and try to just run ST here. There we go. We have a terminal. Beautiful. Does it work? Well, yeah, of course it works. There we go. There's go top. There's Ranger. There's HTOP, there's SL, little choo-choo train running across the screen. It's a very small font size, so we'll probably have to sit here and watch this for a while, but the point is, it's a terminal, and it works, and it does like what a terminal does. Like, it works fine. Anyways, let's try to get this to a place I'm much happier for it to be, which is something more similar to my config for Alacrity, my terminal of choice. And also, to be clear, I have no intention of switching to ST. I love Alacrity like my own child. This is an amazing terminal. I've been using it since my Mac OS days, and I have no intention of switching anytime too. It's a GPU accelerated terminal alongside a few other ones. I think Kitty is another one that I know of that works like that. It will literally run commands faster than any other terminal because it's using GPU acceleration. And if you again, like, not a big deal. Like most of the things you do on the terminal, the whole reason that people would interact with the system through a shell. I'm just going to cut myself off here. It's fast. That's all I mean to say. And it's not bloated. It's lightweight. It's not as lightweight as ST, but we're about to add a bunch of patches to ST. So ST isn't as lightweight as it is out of the box anyways by the time you're getting it to where you want it to be. Alacrity stays. This is purely experimental. Okay, so let's go back into the config.def.h and begin to tear this bad boy apart. First of all, we want to change the font. My go-to right now, I think I'm using Source Code Pro NF, which is the nerd font version. It's patched so that when I run something like LS, it adds these little icons here. That's why you use something like a nerd font. So you can do stuff like that. Pixel size, we're going to want to increase the font size a good bit. And the border pixel thing here, I don't know quite what that is. Is that maybe the padding around the edge of the terminal? It very well might be. Let's try to set that to something big, like maybe 50. See what happens, eh? Maybe edit the colors in here as well. There's a couple of different other things we can do. Oh wow, this is 472 lines. This is a big config for a Suckless app. Oh, okay, here we go, colors. So we have 8 bright colors and 8 not so bright colors. Could we possibly just steal from my Alacrity config? I believe we could. Also, check out that config, 86 lines. We missed a comma here. That might not help. Remove the config.h. Sudo make clean install st. Okay, all right, let's go back into the config.def.h and I'm going to make the font significantly larger just for the screen recording purposes. Rebuild, open up st. Beautiful, beautiful. That's great. Okay, so I mean, I feel like that's probably a decent place to stop here. I mean, There's a lot of other things we could do, patches for transparency and whatnot, but I mean, I just looked over at the recording here, and it's been an hour and 2 minutes now, so it's probably going to be a long enough video already. So we'll end it there, but I think you get the idea. Like, patching the apps is not nearly as complicated as I thought it would be. I mean, dare I say, sort of straightforward and easy and vaguely fun. We'll call that quits here. So thanks for watching, everybody. Cheers. If you need a VPN, check out PureVPN. That will be all for this video. Happy Memorial Day, even though this is going to be uploaded way after Memorial Day. Who cares? See you in the next one.